right, welcome again, you guys. Welcome to Prosperia Broadcasting Center. Eric Odom here, Prosperian X in Prosperia, running just a minute or two behind, but hey, ready to rock. And as you guys know, we fumble our way through. We're getting better every single week. So hopefully today's the first time that we're doing a stream with three of us. So hopefully this goes swell, and we'll be able to have a good chat with you guys, with our guest and with all of you. If you have questions, we can open it up for that later. I think Kripman usually watches Discord pretty closely. So if you're on Discord, you can ask there. Otherwise, I do have the comments up in front of me. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and give us a like during this live stream. That really helps with the algorithm. And also our guest is Atlanick, awesome YouTuber. He and Cleanup had me on his channel a couple months ago, and we had an amazing conversation. His link is down below in the description. So if you're in the replay gang, or if you're watching this live, go down there and make sure you jump over to his channel and subscribe. He's always analyzing projects and giving you his hot takes on what's going on out there in the CNFT space. So really happy to bring him on today. And of course, joined by Kripman as well. So we'll go ahead and jump in with those two, but please do make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video during the live stream, or if you're in a replay game, give us a like afterwards. And very much looking forward to this conversation. So let's just jump right into it. What's up, Atlanick? Oh, I got you on mute just a sec. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Awesome.
How's it going, man?
It's going well. How about you?
Great. Kripman, every time I talk to him, he's not in the same part of the country that I'm in. So yeah, I'm in Texas and it's hot as hell. I spent my whole day hunting for a generator, and Texas sending out these text messages that the power grid's going to go down, and it did flicker this morning. So I've been out all day hunting a generator and AC, but outside of that, man, going great.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty hot where I am too. You know, I have to walk the dogs every day, and man, it's getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah, it's not fun. Kripman, what's up with you, man? How's your week been?
Dude, it was 106 yesterday.
Okay, so it's hot for you too.
Work. Yeah, it's entering that dangerous heat level, just all over the place. It's real crazy. I actually talked to my mom, and apparently North Carolina is that same way. So, it's hot everywhere.
Yeah, and in previous years here in Texas, we can, in certain parts of the U.S., you can talk about how hot it is, and other parts of the world can't relate. But in the UK and everywhere right now, they're going through this triple-digit heat. So anyway, it's elevator talk. Jump right into a weather conversation. So Atlanick.
It's notable. The weather's notable.
Let me change I'm going to change my name here so I'm not spilling over into your screen.
Prosperia X Atlanick. I mean, it's a really good look for like a collaboration title going on right now.
There we go. That's better. So Atlanick, like I said in the intro, if you haven't done so, please go subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description down below. If you're in the replay gang, you'll see it down there in the description as well. So I was on with you and Cleanup a few months ago, and it was amazing. We talked gaming, and like we went old school in that conversation. Had a lot of fun with that. But your channel is it really goes into the CNFT space, like in depth in a lot of the projects. And I wanted to kick things off with just kind of an overview of what the CNFT space is for those who may not know, because I think most people out there, they hear NFT, right? And you see like crypto.com, all these big ads out there that they're talking about NFT space. But what is the CNFT space, and what is Cardano, and what is the attraction, and maybe what attracted you to begin with? Why should someone care or look more into it?
So the CNFT space is, like you said, it's essentially NFTs, but just for Cardano. So if anybody knows anything about NFTs, they are specific to their blockchain. So Ethereum has its own blockchain and its own NFTs. And same with, I believe Shiba even has its own NFTs and own blockchain and all of that. So this is specific to Cardano. And the reason why I got into Cardano NFTs is because the price, and I owned the most Cardano. So I actually owned, I want to say a couple $1,000s worth of Cardano before I got into NFTs. and I couldn't really afford the Ethereum NFTs, and it was for multiple reasons. Ethereum also I might go on a tangent because there's so much information to cover, but Ethereum has gas fees that are pretty expensive at certain times. And that's because the way Ethereum works is it has miners that are constantly mining for more Ethereum blocks. And when that happens, then other transactions can go through on those blocks. So sometimes it can cost upwards $20. Sometimes it's even $100 if it's really, really busy just for a transaction. So I couldn't afford that. And was just like, oh, well, maybe I can't do NFTs. But I continued to search and I found Cardano. And Cardano has amazing transaction fees. I think we only pay like 0.5 ADA sometimes or less. And if you look at the price of ADA right now, it's 50 cents or lower. So you're really not spending too much. And yeah, so it's a good entry for somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of money and they want to maybe learn about NFTs. I think Cardano is a good spot to learn.
It's way lower risk.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Ethereum. That was my starting point too in crypto, and the exact same trajectory of just very frustrated with failed transactions and the cost of doing business on Ethereum. And I saw some of the community out there in Twitter on Cardano, and the NFTs seem more affordable, and it was a little bit of a learning curve to go to Cardano wallets. Of course, now I know them like the back of my hand, but it's not like MetaMask. I don't even remember. I'm only Cardano now, so I'm like not even really remember what wallets I use. But you know, there's a much more kind of wide. I don't know the word I'm using, like global wallets. You know, for Ethereum and Bitcoin and things like that. But Cardano has its own little world, which is changing. We're starting to see bridges and stuff like that, but the community and the NFT space being so affordable and so welcoming and embracing, to me it was like a welcome mat. You know, I was like, hey, I'm going to try this Cardano thing out, jump into a couple NFTs, and you just easily jump into a space that's not diluted, that you're not just some lost fish out there. You know, you can really jump in and be a part of the family really quick. If someone wanted to get into NFTs just in baby steps and are watching this video and they're thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe I've heard of Cardano, maybe I should take a look. What would you say is kind of the first, what is a good entry level beginner pathway into the CNFT space?
So I think if I was having to talk to my younger self rather, I would want to tell myself to know what NFTs are, because I kind of thought that they were just art. I didn't know that they were actually things that offer utility. So sometimes you can own an NFT and that will give you access to maybe a website or a tool like some software. And that can be really beneficial because you can think of a software as something that you may pay monthly for. But if you own an NFT and it gives you yearly access or forever access, then essentially that's where its value can come from. So some of these things are not necessarily just art projects. And that's kind of where I would like to start, is just understanding what NFTs are and what NFTs can give you as far as a value. So I don't know if anybody out there that's maybe watching has already an idea of what NFTs are in their head, but it's not just one thing. It's not just art and it's not just utility. It's also community, which is kind of a tough thing to understand. Like, how does community add value? But with something like Bored Ape Yacht Club, they have a yearly meetup, and that's where community really does come into play as well. And some other projects may not have as strong of community meetups or things with their community, but every project does have its own community, and Cardano as a whole has its Cardano community. So that's also a really big proponent of NFTs that I wasn't aware of going into it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's a really good kind of some, not hurdles, but certainly some caution cones to put up for yourself. I know a lot of people who just jump right in and start buying NFTs. Like that's the first thing, oh, this looks cheap. That was me actually in Cardano. I came in and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, that's cheap. That's only 15 ADA. I start buying up all this stuff, and now all that's in my dumpster wallet, so I mean, I probably have 90% of all the NFTs that I bought in the first month that I was buying Cardano NFTs, because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't take just a little bit of time to get into some of the Discord servers and really understand some of the deeper, like you say, utility, the mission behind a lot of NFTs. But it can create so much value, not just monetarily, but in terms of your connection to what's behind that NFT by just taking a little bit of time. So maybe that's a great place to, if you're just getting into the space or interested in the space, be a little bit patient with it. Don't just jump in there and go on jpeg.store and see, well, this NFT over here is only 25 ADA. You may have that NFT for 2 or 3 years and not really like it and not be able to sell it. But conversely, you can find 25 ADA NFTs, which right now is like $10, that maybe 6 months, 7 months from now, or even 30 days from now, might be worth 500, 1,000 ADA, or something that's so valuable to you that you never want to let go of it. So that patient path.
Things you like because you like them.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. I would look back and say, I wish that I had done some of that myself. So, Kripman, what are your thoughts? Because you got some weird ones. You're kind of out there, and you're in the old money skull. You got.
So I had a pretty similar trajectory to you guys with looking at Ethereum NFTs and being like, man, that's really cool. Like there's some crazy stuff going on there. I'm seeing these communities pop up. I'm seeing, the Bored Apes and the Doge Pound and things. And I was like, I would love to look into that and be a part of that. And I had like just a little bit saved. And I looked at, I think it was the Secret Whale Society was the first mint I ever looked at. And it was like, okay, what's the gas fee calculation on that? Okay, $300 for that transaction. I'm out completely of the entire ecosystem. Goodbye. No, thank you. And I got kind of discouraged. So it was really cool. I had a friend who introduced me to like Cardano, just the blockchain. He was like, man, I think this is where it's going to be at. Like they're doing that stuff, but it doesn't cost $1 million. You should check it out. So I started buying Cardano in like April of 2001. And, it was kind of a thing. It was the first like crypto I really invested in and I think I had like a couple $1,000s worth, which is like 800 ADA at the time. And I ran into like the Hype Skulls thing, and that was a really, really expensive mint, but it didn't seem so crazy as compared to like the Ethereum stuff. So I kind of went all in there, but that's a whole nother story. I think it's really important to note about NFTs and about the value that you can be a member of these communities without owning the specific NFT. Like go poke around, like see what the people are like in the community before you decide to join it. I think that's a really important thing to do as far as like doing your own research. I have many times bought something and been like, man, this is awesome. And then I'll go to the Discord and it's just not for me. And that's fine because I like the things that I buy. But if you want to like get fully immersed in a project, like you're going to need to kind of find a community you agree with. So definitely do that level of research before you go whole hog.
Yeah, I've got some friends who, a couple who asked a couple weeks ago, okay, so what should I buy first? I just got some Cardano. And I'm like, man, it doesn't work that way. I can't just say, go buy these 5 things. You've got to put in some time. And if you really want it, again, not just monetarily, but just generally all around, if you really want to create good value for yourself and what you're doing with your money and your time, you got to put a little bit in it, but it's so worth it, so worth it. So Atlanick, before we get into some talk about some projects, why Cardano? I mean, just like we talk about the fees, which are amazing, which our stake pool, which by the way, our stake pool, PROSP, guys, is almost at 3 million ADA staked. And we just minted
exploded.
Yeah, and we just minted 2 blocks on Epic 353. But I saw one of the transactions in one of those blocks was for like 1.6 million ADA with like $1 fee, so it's right. Someone moved like 700 grand US dollars for $1, like that's unheard of in traditional fiat anywhere. So yes, the fees for Cardano are a huge attraction. The wallets are becoming much, much smoother, much easier to use. There's bridges that are being created that are going to allow a lot of cross compatibility. But just in terms of like the Cardano project itself, what would you say to those who may be interested, not just watching the price action, looking, because we're obviously all holding in a time where it's really hard to hold. Why are we doing that? What are the beliefs there?
So there's a lot to it. Everything is down right now. Whether you hold Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, from the top, Cardano, you'd be down about 80 to 90% from the $3 top to the $43 range or 43-cent range that we're at now. If you held Bitcoin, you'd be down, I think, like 50 to 60%, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. So it's not as bad if you held something slightly more stable. And we can kind of put stable in like air quotes because cryptocurrency in and of itself is not stable. But, anybody watching this is at least giving cryptocurrency a shot. And I just want to say thank you for that if anybody's new watching cryptocurrency. But Cardano, the reason why I picked Cardano was because it has a proof of stake concept, which is different from proof of work, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum, where proof of work requires rigs, which are computers. And they use your graphics card to work very, very tirelessly to complete a formula of some sort or algorithm that will then mint a block. And you need to be lucky enough to mint a block. And that's what we're all aiming for with proof of work. With proof of stake, you take your Cardano and you stake it in these stake pools, and then you earn it passively. And that's kind of how Cardano works. And that's why the fees are much cheaper, because you don't need all these machines to do that. You don't need somebody mining it to do a transaction. So Ethereum is actually going to, or trying to go to, a proof of stake concept. So if Ethereum can actually do that, it's actually going to be kind of interesting to see where Cardano will fit in once Ethereum does do that. But Ethereum constantly delays this update. They always say they're going to do it, and then it's always delayed. I know they talked about it again, and I think that was the reason for the most recent pump with Ethereum. So we'll have to see. But that's the main reason why I owned Cardano, was for the proof of stake concept.
And I think decentralization in Cardano is way up there. If not the best in terms of decentralization, certainly one of the top couple. And even beyond, I've got a computer right now that's contributing to the blockchain right next to me. It's running Daedalus. I've got multiple wallets staked. But even beyond that side of it, just the coin distribution, it's not like Luna, I'll just say, or some of these tokens where the coin distribution and Solana, let's be honest, and I'm not trying to FUD Solana. I don't have a dog in that fight, but the VC, the big money ownership of some of the blockchains out there is not something I think that Cardano is threatened with. So it's, the decentralization and the control that we all have and the contribution that we all have to the security and stabilization of the blockchain is amazing. But also just the way that just the whole network, the whole value is spread throughout the community as well. Do you agree with that?
So you're saying like there's not as many whales holding Cardano as far as a ratio in comparison to like others?
Certainly not, like venture capital firms that are holding like 30-40% of the supply, from the beginning, which gives them so much control over that supply. I feel like Cardano has been much more transparent about it, and it's just much more distributed, which makes it less risky. Not that, like you said, all crypto is risky, but for us, we're kind of the floor. We all kind of control the floor, right? There's not big VC firms that are controlling 25, 30, 40% of Cardano. there's whales, of course, but
Right.
we, the retail users, kind of, and we've seen that 45-cent floor where we're just stubborn. We're just, that's, of course, a lot of us just aren't going to take losses below that.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have some control over it, whereas I see some other blockchains over where they just feel completely like they have no control over the situation whatsoever. And even though it's not where I would like it to be, I feel like we have some control over it.
I think it's important too, because if you are getting into NFTs, you can go and I don't know if we can pull up a website, but JPEG Store will show you, and that's jpg.store. It'll show you certain projects and it'll tell you the total supply of that project. And it'll also tell you how many wallets hold that project. So let's say it's a 10,000 collection. So there's only 10,000 of these NFTs. A lot of projects will have a roughly 1,000 wallets, which means roughly on average, everybody holds about 10. And if you look at that, it's not too decentralized. That's somewhat decentralized, but there's probably like one wallet that holds probably like 1,000, and then there's other wallets that hold some smaller amounts. But the ones that are the most spread out are usually the ones that have the most stable floor.
So true. We've got one wallet holding 300 of our land plots. So there's definitely some whales even in some of our projects.
I think we became that guy's pet project. That's the same wallet that staked 2 million to our Prosper pool. He's going out there. He actually donated a bunch of stuff to our weekly marbles prize, like some really high value stuff for marbles prizes. So there's those people out there, like you were saying. There's less like VC control. I actually saw a video quote of Charles the other day talking about how that's one of the reasons there's so much like resistance to Cardano, is that the like North American and European VCs just missed out because it was originally offered in Japan. So there's like Japanese VCs that are heavily invested and things like that, but a lot of the Western world just kind of missed out on that. So I think his theory is that they're salty about it, and I get that. I do. I understand. So yeah, it's a very interesting thing about how the community, and not just the NFT community, for Cardano is so strong. And you see it on Twitter. Like, you see it on Twitter to the point that people think we are bots. Because, nice poll, man. And all of a sudden there's 3,000 votes on a poll when there were like 15 before. Yeah. It's incredible what we can do as a community.
Oh yeah, this community will crawl over glass to support each other. We see it in our own project, and of course see it out there on Twitter and in Cardano in general. And so it's amazing. So I think conclusion on that segment, not financial advice, but certainly I have never looked back when making the leap to Cardano at all. I own nothing but Cardano. And just have no interest. I mean, right now is just a terrible time to try to do day trading and all that anyway, unless that's all you do and you have a lot of liquidity to do it with. But Cardano is just a good, comfortable place to be parked. And I'm taking advantage of this time to really get to know projects and really get to know teams behind them and what the long-term objectives are, because right now long-term is where it's at with the NFT space. For us as a project, we're kind of like a lot of projects, just in a holding pattern because of how unstable the whole market is. So this is a good time for us to build foundation and to really kind of hone in and fine tune our plans and just let our ADA sit there in wallets, for a better day. But just get in and learn and soak up and understand the fundamentals of the CNFT space, and be patient with it, because especially right now is not a time where it's just different than it was even a few months ago. But I think there's some advantages to that. Obviously, you can get Cardano super cheap. Like I say all the time, it's on sale. It absolutely is at a super cheap discount right now. And I've bought where it is right now, and I've bought at 350. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I think probably break even overall, but it's a good time to hold and just research and learn, and which I think leads us into the next segment, which is, and if you guys have questions, I'll start watching those now. If you have questions for Atlanick, I think we're a little delayed on the comments. Go ahead.
I have one thing on that last note. Even if you don't participate in the NFT space, even if you don't get into the whole community aspect of it, just holding Cardano, holding ADA, and staking to an active pool, you will earn roughly 5% per year more ADA. There's obviously a couple things that go into that. The staking process is relatively simple, but it's definitely like, that next step of interaction with it. And once you throw into those pools, you're helping secure the network. You're really, helping secure the future of the chain. One of the big turning points in my mind was when I had like 800 ADA sitting for 2 weeks and my stake went active and I got paid more in rewards than I have been paid in 15 years with my traditional bank. And that was it. That was the moment for me that I was like, oh man, like this is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing.
It's funny you say that. I just got one of those pieces of mail today offering me a CD, locking my fiat money up for 3 years for like 1.6%, or something.
Yeah,
like
no
that.
thanks.
Well, and that's another thing with Cardano. If you stake, your money's not locked. You
Nope.
can withdraw that and use it for whatever you want. You can withdraw it, cash it out, withdraw it, buy NFTs. So your commitment could be 6 days, or 6 years, so yeah, I love that. So getting on a short term, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say, because I just asked what's minting in our Discord. I haven't paid any attention to the calendars. I've just moved to Texas, and that's been a huge thing. I've got an infant in the house. It's hot. So what's on the radar for the next week or two? Is there anything, or even a couple weeks, is there anything big that we should be looking for? What's exciting to you?
So there's 3 projects that I broke it down to in the last video, because I do weekly mints video to try to prepare everybody for every week. And I release those on Sunday so that everybody can have enough time to watch the video and prepare for that full week. And the projects that I mentioned were Ragnarok, Reptiles, there's Pixel.page, which is made by NanoFrames. And then there's Spacepug Poker. That was what I've limited it to for this week. Spacepug Poker, if you don't know, is from Spacepugs, obviously. And, it's run by CNFT Ultimate, or Ultimate Warrior, rather. And he's also a YouTuber. And CNFT Adam and some other mods helped with that project tremendously. All I do is talk to CNFT Adam now. He basically, in my eyes, runs that project. He is the man. But a lot of projects want to make these poker games and try to implement that into their NFT project somehow. And Spacepugs Poker is no exception, but they've done it on a grand scale to where they're creating a whole NFT just for their poker part of their NFT project. And I do think it's a very fair price. They also lowered it from $100 to, I believe, $50, or maybe it is even 58. I'd have to go check, but they have the price. And so that made a lot of people happy. But what came with that was they're no longer tied with Cardano Crocs Club. Originally, Cardano Crocs Club, which is also very heavily into poker, was going to create a poker platform for Spacepugs Poker, where you would be, instead of what we do now is we go to Poker Now, which is free and very easy to use. They wanted to have rather, their own poker platform. So that is now what they're going to be building in the long term, and it's no longer going to be with Cardano Crocs Club. So that's going to allow them to lower the price. And I think that was kind of like a happy balance that they found. And that's the project I'm the most bullish on for this week, in all honesty. That's, I want to say the 29th or 30th. I'd have to double check for the exact date, but that's the project that I think, not financial advice, but that's what I'm going to mint.
So this is July 26th. If you're watching this within the next couple of days, go back to your last video.
Yeah, it'll be the video. It's cut in threes. It's horizontally threes, and it says my top 3 picks for the week or something like that.
Okay, so make sure you click the link below in the description, head over to his channel, and if you're in time, you can go check those projects out. What do you think of jelly cubes, the floor on that? I mean, I don't, I've got a couple, and it's funny because this morning there was this whole debate, you know, like sometimes I just get really burned and I just FOMO into stuff that I should never have FOMO'd into. I completely, yesterday when I saw the announcement pop up, I think it was yesterday when the mint started, I went and sent 200 ADA transactions and didn't even pay attention to the fact that there was whitelist and, you know, there was actual instructions.
You are the degen in all of us.
Yeah. I'm just like, hey, I'm just going ham. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. I got the
Somebody
money
posted
back.
an address in Discord. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So this morning there was this huge debate, and it was at like 900, and some were saying, no, this is it, this is the top, don't get in. And I went and bought a couple, and
at 900,
900, and now they're at 1200.
Yeah.
So anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Just curious.
I love Block is Hot. All right, he's probably the largest, mainly CNFT YouTuber that we have at the moment. He's got about 5.5, maybe 6,000 subscribers, which is pretty large for the amount of people that we have in the community. So huge shout outs to him. He's doing big things. No pun intended, since it is the BIG investment group. But he created these jelly cubes with his sister. His sister is the artist, so I really like that too. Yeah. And he moved to, I want to say Portugal. I really hope not wrong because I just talked to him, but one of the P countries, I think, Portugal, I think it's for tax reasons. So if you're moving across the world for your project, I mean, you're not any more devoted than that. So what that project is going to be is essentially an alpha group, and it's also a trading group. So they're going to take the money and they're going to try to make money from their money using professionals that trade. So like we were talking about day traders, if you're a professional, whatever, he's going to hire those people. They're going to try to make money, and a percentage of the money that they make will go into a pool, which will then eventually go back to holders. And you need to own a certain amount of jelly cubes or rarities of jelly cubes in order to equal 6 points. So the point system, I think you need to get 6 total, and I think an uncommon or a common is 1. And then the rares, I want to say are 3, maybe 2. I don't know the exact values, but you can also get 1 by staking to his stake pool. So as long as you total have 6, then you get the royalties from everything that's earned. And it's a pretty low supply. He's going to have a roughly 2,500 to 2,600 jelly cubes ever created. There will never be any more. But yeah, I mean, I love Block is Hot. He's got an amazing channel, so marketing shouldn't be a problem. He moved. Taxes shouldn't be a problem. And I'm just bullish on the project. I missed out on minting, even though I was whitelisted. Oh no. I messed up.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
Well, now that the enter point's 1,200, so, and I've got one I'll give to you for 2,500 if you'd like.
Thank you. So, I appreciate that.
But that's perfect because you were just earlier discussing utility, and I hadn't even. I agree with you. I think Block is Hot. I talked to him when he had like 150 subscribers, which was not that long ago. You know, he hasn't been on YouTube for more than like 5 months. I think wasn't it earlier this year or.
I think it's longer than that. I think he was making content about other blockchains at first, and then he came over to Cardano. So I do think that's where some of his larger following comes from. But regardless, he deserves it all. Yeah, he works very hard.
So you were talking about utility. Well, here I don't really like a lot of the bright art. It's just not for me. But I will say that jelly cubes, I actually kind of think they're very unique and cool, and I don't say that about many of that type of art. It's just not my thing, you know. But I think the art is good. But like you're saying, for those who are not yet in this space, and you heard the conversation earlier, look at all the utility he just listed off, and you're not even really in the guts of it. I mean, you're talking about holding a little piece of art that gets you into an investment group. And has utility tied into the results of what that investment effort or group is going to, you know, potentially could accomplish. That's amazing. So, yeah, that's why you definitely want to not do what I did, which was not pay attention to Block is Hot server for a couple weeks. You want to get in there and pay attention, because even on the short term for the degen flippers, minting at 200. And I remember seeing the bitching about the 200 when the mint was, it's just too high. That's not going to, if you got in at 200 and you're just a degen flipper, one of our members sold one this morning for 2,000 that he minted for 200. So
10x, let's go.
yeah. So even just the face of it, the flipping was amazing for that project. But now there's the long term, the utility, and you wouldn't know that unless you really paid attention. It's not like you have to be glued to it for weeks on end, but just getting in there and getting a basic understanding of the underlying premise and mission of the project is, could prove to be very valuable. So that just backs up what you were saying earlier. Just do a little bit of research. So what else is, well, let me ask you, because Kripman and I are team with Prosperia. Prosperia is a very long term. We're like a 3 to 5 year. That's when our real big stuff is going to start being developed. And this is a very challenging time for us with, we have big expenses on the development side that are contracted in US dollars. And with ADA and all of crypto where it's at, creates a lot of heartache. And I'm wondering, do you have any insight on some of the other big projects? I mean, there's a lot of big projects that are quiet. We're not a big project, but I would say like Pavia and some of these others seem really quiet. Is it kind of the same thing? Or do you think a lot of these projects are just kind of in this holding pattern because they can't really move a lot? Or what kind of struggles do you think some of the bigger projects might be going through as a result of the current market?
The current market is going to affect everybody. There's just no getting around that. It really didn't hit Cardano NFTs like it hit Ethereum NFTs. You saw the best Ethereum NFTs literally go, I think it was like 50 to 70% down from their all-time highs. And if you bought at that time, I mean, some of those NFTs were a $400,000 floor, for Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. $400,000 per floor. That's crazy. And now they're down to about $93,000 a piece. So, and they might even be lower. The last time I checked was almost a month ago. But yeah, Cardano NFTs didn't really see that. I got off topic a little bit though. What was your question?
But that's interesting because I'll get back to the question, but Ethereum's basically a victim of its own success, in some ways in this market. Whereas the CNFT space, we want to reach that moon, but you have to be careful with that, right? Because it means the burn is much more damaging when the burn occurs. Right now, I think if you're aping into something at 900 ADA and you can only sell it for 700 ADA, well, your losses are relatively minimal. Nobody wants to lose anything, but you're not losing, 10, 20, 100,000, $400,000. So I think that's just more confirmation of what we were talking about earlier. Cardano is such a great place to get in and learn NFTs because your initial investment, your initial buy-in just can be so minimal, and you can really be diversified in what you're holding NFT wise, because it is kind of like playing craps, it is kind of like gambling. And I love craps because at craps, everyone's losing or everyone's winning together, except for that weirdo who's not betting on the pass line. There's always someone who's betting against the table, right? But generally in craps, everybody's winning together and everybody's kind of losing together, so it's got this great vibe where everyone relates to everyone. And there's just not a huge cost to entry in Cardano versus, like Ethereum or some of those other ones. Let's see if we have any questions here.
I wanted to ask Atlanick real quick. Have you seen anything about Wolves of Rome? Because that's the thing I'm most excited about this week.
Okay, that's actually really cool that you said that, because Wolves of Rome hit me up for a promo video and I was like, oh, cool, like another promo video. Like, yeah, sure, I'll cover it, whatever. And I start looking through it and I'm just like, dude, I actually love this project. Wolves of Rome is going to be a card-based game built on Cardano. And they already have an alpha version working on their game. All you have to do is go into their Discord and sign up for their beta or alpha tester, and you'll play against one of their team members. And I've been told through a Twitter space that their team members are not that great. So you can actually
That's
go
a
play them.
lie. That's a lie. They're
I'm sure it's a
very
lie.
good.
I'm sure it's a lie.
They're
But
extremely good and scary.
yeah, and I mean, it's a strategy game, so the developers, they definitely know what they're doing. But if you beat one of them, maybe they'll go easy on you, I don't know. But if you beat one of them, you get whitelisted to mint one of their Genesis. And if you get one of their, I think it's 180 ADA, and there's only 2,000 of them total, and that's their Genesis. So it's a little expensive, but there is only 2,000, which is even smaller than Block is Hots. But then again, Block is offering a lot of different things. You can't compare them 1-to-1. You get what I'm saying? But anyways,
They're definitely different utilities. Like one is very game focused. They were actually just in
right.
KDev's Twitter space talking. I caught a little bit of that before I came over here. But yeah, I've been playing the alpha. It's absolutely incredible to me that they have what is essentially a minimum viable product already that is playable, and like they have not asked for any money from anyone. I think that mints like the next day or two coming up on that. So keep an eye out for those. I think they're going to be super hot. Really looking forward to minting a couple myself.
Yeah, and by owning the NFT, you don't actually use that NFT as one of your cards, but it'll give you access to a pack or two of cards for free once the game does start.
And I believe every time they come out with new cards, as well as like monuments and stuff that change your board, yeah, I'm super fascinated with this one. Glad to catch your take on it.
Yeah.
So Grim says he just sold a jelly cube for 1,900. So yeah,
Let's go.
Okay, so I remember my question on some of the big sort of projects that have been around for a while on Cardano. Have you heard of it? I mean, why? Because it seems to be that there's a lot of quiet.
Yes.
So why do you think that is? I mean, do you think that just because of the situation of the market, everybody's kind of in this holding pattern and can't really move forward, or is there fear of minting? Because I know we had to change our mint just because of the reality of the situation we're all in. Are you seeing projects delay mint, or you mentioned earlier one that I think it was Pugs that had lowered the price. What kind of havoc is that causing with a lot of the projects you're tracking?
It's not like too many projects that I've heard that are delaying the mint. A few of them definitely, but not on a mass scale, I would say. But I do think that it is happening. I just don't think it's being talked about. I think there's projects that are out there that we don't know yet that are like, oh, we shouldn't, launch yet. We shouldn't market yet because it's expensive. Like when you come out too, you really want to, as a project, continue momentum. You want to come out, you want to market, and you want to continue to gain followers. You want to continue to see your floor price go up. And if you start losing that momentum, it's really hard to get it back. So projects definitely know this going into the bear market. And there's definitely projects on the sideline that we don't know about that are building and just patiently waiting. There's no doubt about that. Now for Pavia, they've been quiet even before the bear market. So I'm not sure. I've always wondered why they don't make more announcements and kind of talk about their development, because it seems like Pavia was the first metaverse on Cardano, and it had a 900, almost a 1,000 floor at one point, and now it's all the way down to 200. And sure, that was after their third mint, where a lot of more land came in. So obviously more land, it's going to divide the total amount of volume, so the price will go down. That happens, but you don't normally see it fall like that. That's like an 80% drop. That is crazy. So I really don't know why they're not being more vocal. I mean, the easy thing to say is like, no, they just don't have anything, right? So that's why. But that's not. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, and that's the case for, it's not just Pavia. Like Lazy Llama is a huge fan of that team and that project. But Ada Realms, there's just nothing on a lot of this stuff that we're all holding a ton of plots on. And it's not that I don't think anyone's like, hey, release the whole thing now. But I think we're all just kind of wondering, are there at least any updates of, hey, we're kind of in this holding pattern. Not that we communicate better than anyone else, but I feel like we're very compelled to, on a regular basis, say this is delayed because of this, or here, you know, here's what we're doing, here's what we're working on, here's some of the things that are coming in the next couple of days. It just is odd to me that some of the projects that a lot of us are really invested in are just so quiet right now, of not even acknowledging their existence in some cases, you know. And I wondered if you had any insight on that. But, you know, on the other hand, you've got like the old monies out there and the, you know, Ape Society that are just chugging along like they, as if nothing's changed, and their cycles keep, like, I'm watching Ape Society right now. I'm like, go back down to 1600, you know.
Is that your buyback in? Okay. Now I know
1600 below, I sell at 2200 and above. The cycle's always the same. every 4 or 5 weeks.
Churning the apes.
But I digress. But yeah, so I was just curious if you had any insight. I don't know if you're, I mean, those bigger projects, I've never talked to any of their teams other than like Lazy Llamas. We have Hendos on our team. But you know, like he runs our Discord dev and stuff like that. But it's so bizarre that some of these that 5 months ago, that's all you saw in the news, on the YouTube channels, on Twitter, were these big projects, and now you just hear nothing. And I just was curious. I have no idea why that is, but I would love to know, because I've got wallets with a lot of it.
You know, I would say it's actually kind of welcoming for a very few projects, but like Cornucopias minted, they minted their 2 trees, they minted the their land, and then I think they had something before that as well, but I can't remember. But anyways, they had like
bubble jets, they had javelins, they had OG bubble jets for the people with the OG rolls. Then they did the 2 trees and then the land thing. They've done a lot.
Yeah, but just in I think it was just in like 2 to 3 weeks, they minted 2 trees and their land. And their land was huge. I mean, it was a lot of land, and it was for a pretty hefty price. So actually not hearing too much about the next mint from Cornucopias is kind of welcoming. Not that I don't want it. I do. I want it bad. But I am very happy that they're kind of letting our coffers build back up before they make an announcement, so that I actually have some ADA to mint. And the next thing we'll be able to mint should be their bubble domes. So I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know when it's coming, but I am very excited about that.
Now, speaking of kind of I don't know if Cornucopia would be a newer project, but there are some new ones that are kind of coming out of nowhere with huge mint prices. What was the Econos or Econos?
Iconicos. Iconicos. I don't know.
Iconicos.
I've heard so many different pronunciations. I don't know.
No, I you know, I've nothing for or against. I really didn't follow it. That was kind of when I was finishing up my move. But I saw a lot of FUD and a lot of praise. And I mean, that's kind of interesting, because that can't seem to come out of nowhere. And with a big ask, what's your take on some projects like that?
For them specifically, I thought their art looked good. I spoke with their team, and they had been working on this for a while, so it wasn't something just thrown together. So I did like that, but I thought the price was way too expensive. It was 700 ADA for 12,345, which I also didn't really like the number, but I'm not trying to be rude. I just thought like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was just like, I don't know. I would just say, why are you minting so many for such a large price? Like, it's such that, like, this is your first mint, and you're minting a lot for a very heavy price, but there was a lot offered. If you got one of the even worst ones, you were given, I think it was 4 whitelist spots for land. You're given like a pod, which you're supposed to spawn in when you spawn into their game. And then some other things I can't remember. And then some of the better ones, if you got like the best one, you'd get a free yacht. You'd get a free like hover jet helicopter type thing that can like fly around. You get a bunch of stuff with them. But personally, how I would have liked that project to be done is maybe mint one of those things that you're offering, keep it kind of small, and just like get a feel for the community, see how the community likes that, get a feel for it, and then go from there. But they just kind of came out with a bang. There's a bunch of strategies, and that was what they chose. I don't know. I don't hate it, but personally, I would have went with a smaller mint price to kind of like dip my toes in the water with it.
Yeah, we were doing some math in Discord trying to figure out what would be the capital that would be needed to support the secondary. even at like a 10% gain on those assets at that, the volume that would be needed, it doesn't exist in Cardano, at least not in the NFT space, not yet. The volume that would be needed to carry that kind of secondary success, So I agree with you. I thought it was a lot of really cool art. I didn't have anything against the project or team, but I didn't mint for that very reason. Just thinking, okay, if I don't get something that I like, what are the odds that I can find a buyer for it? And a lot of people have to be asking that question, and there's just, the volume it would require on something like that. So you have to take those things into consideration too. And that I'm not saying that to FUD the project. Again, I don't have there's no for or against in my view. That was just a personal take, but those are some of the things you have to take into account.
I really think sorry.
Go ahead.
Go on. I was going to say there's like two main reasons as well that I think they had a rougher mint than expected. And that was that they minted the same week as Cornucopias, which is hard to compete. And Cornucopias was the most expensive we'd ever had a mint at. And then Nikos wants to come and also be a part of the most expensive mint we'd ever had. So we had two of the most expensive mints that we have ever had in the same week. And then the other thing was they had their whitelist at a 350 ADA mint price, which was half off from the public. So as soon as all the whitelisted people mint, they're going to get theirs first, and then they're going to dump the floor. That's going to make people not want to mint for 700 because it's already half off and people are dumping that. So nobody's going to mint the floor or mint anymore. And that's, I think, why they had to cap their mint and kind of rethink what they did.
Interesting. Well, it's just, in any event, it's intriguing because, and I love the CNFT space because you have sort of the ones you can kind of track that are planning over a couple months. You kind of know what to expect, and then you have something that just completely comes out of nowhere and changes the whole conversation. So it's an ever evolving place to kind of be plugged in and watch. And I love that when I first got into the CNFT space, there were not very many projects. You had a whole bunch of little cartoon animals and then maybe 10 that everybody talked about. And now there's these big projects coming in that are already sitting on money and have been obviously working behind the scenes for a long time. But you got to be careful with those. Like if you look at like Split Worlds and some of the others that had big marketing and big conversations around them that came out swinging, and then they've struggled, and I don't really know a whole lot about that project either. I mean, we kind of pitched them. I got out of line when I was minting, fortunately, because it was like 6 hours. I was like, all right, I'm done with this, so the whole mint process kicked me out of it. But that's why you have to really do your research and really ask these questions, because some of the things with the best marketing out there may not be have the best results for you. But then also some of the things that just come out of nowhere and don't have a lot of marketing, or like Block is Hot has his little YouTube community. But if you're not in that YouTube community, it would be hard for you to know about jelly cubes. So you just got to really get plugged in there and understand what's going on with these jelly cubes. Could have been a huge success for someone who was just getting into the space if you'd caught it at the right time. So
100%. Yeah, because if you're new to, it's difficult, because I'd say if you're new to stocks, the first thing you should do is go buy Apple, Microsoft, Google, whatever, right? You can say that, even if you don't have enough money, you can do fractionalized shares, whatever you want to do, but get into those first. With NFTs, it's a bit rough. There's no fractionalized, shares. It's like if you want to get into the top ones first, you're spending $3,500 for either a Space Bud, $2,800 for a Clay, $2,000 for an Ape Society. Like, it's like, oh wow, like this is kind of rough. But I still would recommend you get into one of the good projects first. Because even if you go through a dip, your money's going to come back at some point. You do not know that with a brand new project. So
absolutely. Ape Society was the first one where now I've figured out how to work their cycles. But it was the first one I think I bought that was over 1,000 ADA. And when it's your first time, it's hard to pull that trigger. But in a project like that, now I have relatively no fear of buying that. When they drop when they drop down to 1,500, I'll go and buy a couple more, and I have no fear of that because of the stability of that project and the team and the community. The community is not going to let Ape Society drop to 200 ADA. It's just never going to happen. So yeah, I absolutely wish that I had taken the 1,200 ADA that I first bought and looked more into a project like that versus just going to JPEG store and buying a bunch of $20 JPEGs, that look cool to me without doing any research. Because if that was all I considered in my first jump in, I would have gotten right back out, because I lost that whole first 1,000 to 1,200 ADA by just not really thinking any of it through. And now I can spend 1,600 ADA on an ape every 5 weeks, 3 of them, and go flip them for 22, 23, 2,400, a month later. And I do that with a lot of projects, based on that strategy you're talking about with some of those more stable. Of course, I think you mentioned Space Buds. There's been some controversy around that.
Yeah. Space Buds is our pride and joy of Cardano NFTs. Everybody loves Space Buds, and I'm not even saying this in jest. But recently, if you don't know, they've come out with some news that a lot of the traits were copied. So they are redoing. Yeah, Trace Buds is what some people are calling it now. But they are going to be fixing this. So their way of trying to fix it is they're going to rework some of the art and then redo the collection that way. I really want Space Buds to continue to succeed. I don't own any of them. I have no reason, personally to want them to succeed, other than I think it might make the Cardano space look bad if our best NFT is a, copycat of some sort. I think that would look bad for our space. And I don't think it's necessarily Space Bud's fault. I don't think it's Alessandro's fault, any of that.
Agreed.
It's really hard to know if art is copied or just inspired or where it came from. You pay an artist, you tell them you want something, and you have to kind of trust them. And this information came up, almost a year and a half later. So I don't blame them. I hope we can look past this. 1 strike I think is fine. Let's not make it 2. Let's not make it 3. Let's just keep it there, and maybe we can get some forgiveness with that project, coming up.
So what is their process? I think I saw an explanation he put on Discord, a screenshot of it, but how does the policy allow for replacing the NFTs, or how are they looking at fixing that?
I don't think so. I think you have to make a new policy ID. So what's going to happen, and I'm not 100% sure, but these are just my thoughts on it. What I think has to happen is they have to create a new policy ID, which the reason why this kind of sucks is because that'll make this not the first 10K collection minted on Cardano. It'll actually make Cardano Bits the first 10K collection minted, which is why, if you didn't know, a few weeks ago, they actually had a huge run up after they announced that they were going to redo Space Buds, because that means in the metadata, it'll say that Cardano Bits is actually the first 10K collection. So, it's just kind of semantics, to be honest. Like, we all know it was Space Buds, but now it's not going to say it. So I don't know. Maybe they can put it into their metadata somehow, like actually minted on this date or something. I don't know how they'll remedy it.
I've heard a little bit of speculation on this, and Space Buds, because of the way the blockchain works, there's never going to be anything that was the first 10K collection other than Space Buds, right? The policy's locked, so there's not really anything you can do about replacing the art. If the policy were unlocked, they could basically change what the reference point for the art is, and you can swap out art that way. You could remint stuff to change the metadata, so that's obviously off the table. What I have seen proposed is that they are going to take the original asset and basically send it to a smart contract to mint the new one. And it will lock the original asset in that smart contract. And then the value of it, right, the historic value, is locked there and represented by the new one. Now, whether or not people are going to agree with that, whether or not that's how they end up playing that out, that remains to be seen. But that was one of the suggestions that I saw kind of like floating around that seemed to have some sort of like official endorsement to it. So there's some interesting ways they can approach that. And I think if there's anybody to approach something interesting like that, it's probably Alessandro, right? Like he's probably the guy to handle a migration like that. But we'll see how it plays out. We'll see what the market thinks of how that goes. Obviously their floor price is way down from where it was when all that hit, but who knows? Maybe it's a good entry point.
All right, guys, we're coming up on an hour. So with both of you, real quick, start with you, Kripman. Not in the next week, but just generally speaking, if you were to go back 3 weeks and forward 3 weeks, what are 2 projects you're watching? Not as recommendations, none of this is financial advice, but just what would be 2 projects that are of most interest to you? Kripman, not our own, of course.
Oh man, I was gonna say Prosperia twice. Shit.
Yeah. So what's unique? What should someone maybe go look into just for kicks?
I mean, obviously, Wolves of Rome's a big one for me. I'm very excited to see that. One that's kind of, it's been around for a minute, but I've been kind of watching it on and off. It's actually Mars Birds. I think they're going to have some cool, like, game stuff. So maybe go check out Mars Birds.
Wolves of Rome and Mars Birds. Atlanick, where are you at?
I'm trying to think. There's Raccoon Syndicate, which I didn't get to talk about, which is Timmy the Cat. If his project, I don't know if you know Cardano Ecosystem News, but he's a YouTuber. He does like virtual walkthroughs with his kind of 3D software that he has, and all of his YouTube videos are him as a cat, and he has either like a voice modulator or he's just really good voice actor. I'm not sure what it is, but it's so cool. He's like so immersive just with giving information. But his project is Raccoon Syndicate, and there's a lot going into that, so I'm not going to cover it, but you should look into it. That's one. Going back 3 weeks, I would triple, double, quadruple check that I had my whitelist ready for jelly cubes. That's what I would do.
Yep. If I could turn back time. Yeah. I was so excited. I sent my 400 ADA in 2 transactions. I'm like, well, I'm going to go mow the lawn and come back, see what I got. Nah, 400 ADA was back at me.
You got refunded is what you got.
Well, Atlanick, I really appreciate it on short notice. I'm also going to put a link down below to the interview that Atlanick and Cleanup did with me a couple months ago. It was a lot of fun. We just talked life for a couple hours, gaming and Atari and all kinds of like Cleanup and I went total old school. I don't know if he's
Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, Elite Dangerous. Yeah. I don't know. He's probably my age close because he and I could relate a lot to late 80s, early 90s. But I'll put a link down below. And then also, again, if you're live or in the replay gang, click on the link, go subscribe to Atlanick. Great content, especially if you don't have a whole lot of time to do research and projects. He kind of gives a weekly, it's weekly, right? That you're doing these. Yep. Yeah. So every week.
I also have a Discord too. So
in a Discord server, I'll find that and put that down in the video as well, in the description below. Guys, go give him a subscribe and make sure you're plugged in. Atlanick, thank you so much. Kripman, as always, thank you. I think we're going to be able to do this every Tuesday. I think we're getting into a good grind here. So
it's fun. It's a good time. I always enjoy it.
I got to figure out how to pull up screens and stuff, but one step at a time.
Yeah, it'll get better. Every week it'll get just a little bit better. And like a year from now, when we all reconvene, we'll look back and we'll laugh at how amateurish
shitty it was. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be a good time.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy your week, and we'll catch up. If you're on still, we're going to roll the exit for just a second. If you could give us a thumbs up real quick, I'd very much appreciate it. Take the time during the exit roll to go subscribe to Atlanick. I'll put the Discord link there, and then we're going to be back in Discord shortly. For those watching live, we're actually giving away a business plot. Kripman, do you know what the floor is on those? It's like 700.
I didn't know we were giving one away.
Like, but... No. Yesterday they were 680, or two days ago they were 680. Today they're like 550. I was so upset. I was like, what happened to this floor?
Oh,
I've
yeah,
got
the 570. That's actually, I might have to. Anyway, yeah, we should move on.
yeah, so we're going to do, if you're in the replay gang, you already missed it. But for those watching live, we're going to do some trivia here in a bit. Happy hours on in the server. Jump back over there. We'll give that and a couple other plots away. Thank you guys so much. We'll check in with you all shortly and talk with everyone else soon. Have a great week.